Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. And Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, the season for colds is just about over. But our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, managed to have one that hung on all last week.
The cold didn't bother me as much as the fact that it put me a full week behind in the pursuit of my favorite extracurricular activity, a biology teacher named Philip Boynton. For while I was steaming myself with an inhalator, Mr. Boynton was being steamed by another female English teacher, one Daisy Enright. And as far as I'm concerned, one Daisy Enright is one too many. But by last Friday morning, the cold at least was licked. And as I sat down to breakfast with my landlady, she complimented me on my appearance.
You look fine, Connie, the picture of health. You really have the bloom of youth in your cheeks.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Davis. I feel a lot better. But these rosy cheeks aren't all the bloom of youth. There's just too much starch in the face towels.
Sorry, dear. I'll limpen them out a bit.
Yes, they could use a little limpening.
Now go ahead and drink your juice, dear. We can talk later.
What kind of juice is this, Mrs. Davis?
It's a combination. I take the juice of an orange, some lemons, and a grapefruit, and then I whip them all together.
But this color, why is it so red?
I guess maybe I whipped them too hard. No, I know what it is. This morning I added some tomato juice.
Tomato juice?
I figured I might as well use it up. There wasn't enough to pour on my farina anyway. It's very healthy, Connie. Now go ahead, get it down.
That isn't the big trick. Which reminds me, have you planned dinner for tonight?
Not yet, Connie.
Good. I wonder if you'd do me a big favor.
I'd like to, Connie, but I'm rather short this week myself, and
It isn't money this time. I just thought it'd be nice if you went over to your sister Angela's house for dinner. You see, Mr. Boynton has invited me to a barbecue.
He has? Where, Connie?
Here in our backyard. He knows we've got a portable barbecue wagon, but in return for the use of our grounds and equipment, he's consented to let me furnish the food also.
How very generous of him. But I suppose you want me to visit my sister so that you can be alone with Mr. Boynton.
You've guessed my secret, Mrs. Davis. I haven't had one date with him all week long. And he's seen Miss Enright 3 times.
Well, she's nothing to worry about, Connie. My goodness, no normal man would look at her cross-eyed.
And believe me, that's the best way to look at her. But you know, Mrs. Davis, she's insidious. She has a way of clinging to a man like a piece of lint.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Boynton will brush her off when he spent the evening alone with you, Connie. I'll call Angela on the phone and tell her I'm coming over tonight.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Davis. I knew you'd come through for me.
By the way, how did you make this date with Mr. Boynton?
Last night. He called just after midnight.
Oh, isn't that rather late for him?
Oh, he apologized for calling at such an hour, but he had taken Miss Enright to a movie, and after he took her home, he felt awfully restless. Just couldn't sleep, he said.
What movie did they see?
Vaughn Monroe in Singing Guns. Mr. Boynton said the picture was fine, but every time he dozed off, the guns stopped singing and Vaughn Monroe started.
Well, let's hope tonight is the start of a new Mr. Boynton. Romantically speaking, that is.
Mm-hmm.
With the two of you alone in the backyard, sitting under the moon. Who knows what primitive instincts may stir in him?
Perhaps you're right. I remember last year about this time we were sitting in the yard and the moon was very full.
Yes, Connie.
The stars were out, too, millions of them. And as a soft breeze rippled through my hair, Mr. Boynton turned and looked right into my face.
And what did he say, Connie?
He said, "Isn't this a keen night for trapping gophers?"
Here's some mail you forgot to bring from home, Daddy. I thought you might want to read it before school starts.
Thank you, Harriet. Just put it on my desk.
right behind the little neon sign that says Osgood Conklin, Principal.
Okay. Oh, Daddy, before I forget, how about inviting Miss Brooks over for dinner tonight?
What? Me invite Miss Brooks to our home for dinner?
Yes, Daddy, I think it would be sweet. After all, she hasn't been too well during the past week, and you've been rather severe with her.
I've been severe with her. Do you realize that in the past week she has twice dropped a typewriter on my left foot, broken my glasses, and spilled ink all over my newest tie?
But those were all accidents, Daddy. By inviting her over, it would show that you forgave her. Besides, Mother says we owe Miss Brooks a dinner since last Thanksgiving.
That's nothing to be thankful for.
Mother's making codfish balls tonight, and I thought...
Codfish balls? Again?
Yes, Daddy. I've asked Walter Denton to come, but Mother always makes plenty,
Just a minute, Harriet. You say we owe Miss Brooks a dinner?
That's right.
Well, this might be the perfect night to get it over with. Between the codfish balls and that lame-brained dunce Walter Denton, it's a wasted night anyhow. Yes, Harriet, I'll invite your Miss Brooks to dinner.
Thanks, Daddy. But I wish you didn't feel that way
Don't mention his name again. Now, tell me, has Miss Brooks arrived at school yet?
That's a timely question, Daddy. She's just coming up the walk. I can see her through your window.
Good. Now you run along, child. I'll attend to everything.
All right, Daddy. See you during lunch period.
Codfish balls. Now, let's see. I have to meet Miss Brooks in the corridor accidentally. Don't want her to think I'm running after her. She should be coming in the front door about now. That's approximately 8 paces to my door. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now. Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Oh, Mr. Conklin, forgive me for screaming. I thought you were leaping at my throat.
What an odd notion. Yes, well, let's not dwell on it. Will you step into my office for a moment, please?
Yes, sir.
Now, sit down, Miss Brooks. As you know, I'm not much given to fraternization with faculty members. However, my daughter Harriet and my dear wife have put the heat on me to see... they've suggested that I invite you over for dinner tonight.
Oh, how charming. But I'm afraid I couldn't make it tonight, Mr. Conklin.
We're having codfish balls.
That isn't my reason for refusing. But I've planned a barbecue for tonight. This May weather is so lovely.
A barbecue. What are you going to barbecue?
Miss Enright. Spare ribs, probably.
Barbecued spare ribs.
With plenty of savory hot sauce.
And potato salad.
And those wonderful juicy frankfurters.
Smeared with mustard.
And sweet corn.
Dripping with butter and salt.
And homemade biscuits.
Loaded with honey. And a tossed green salad.
Yes, sir. Now, if you'll excuse me, Mr. Conklin.
Where are you going?
To the infirmary. I've made a pig of myself. It was very nice of you to ask me over, Mr. Conklin, but if it's all the same to you, may I have a rain check?
Indeed you may, Miss Brooks. I shall invite you to my outdoor barbecue the very next time it rains.
Excuse me, Mr. Boynton, but I'd like to talk to you for a moment before your first class.
Oh, come in, Miss Brooks. I was just grooming one of my guinea pigs. Had to cut his nails and comb his hair.
Why don't you just let his nails grow? Then he could comb his own hair. I just stopped in to confirm our date for tonight. The backyard is all ours.
Tonight? Don't you mean tomorrow night, Miss Brooks?
Well, no. When you spoke to me on the phone last night, you said tomorrow night, which means tonight.
Oh, but I've got a tentative appointment with Miss Enright for tonight. You see, it was after midnight when I called you last night, and I was thinking of it as being today. So when I said tomorrow night, I meant tomorrow night from today, not tonight.
Put a zither behind that, and you could open at Grauman's Chinese. Look, Mr. Boynton, just between you and me and Miss Enright, don't you think you've been seeing enough of the lamppost lately? I mean, you know what I mean.
Well, if you mean I've been seeing Miss Enright too much, it hasn't been my idea at all. It started when you and I had a date last Tuesday night. Miss Enright came to me Monday and told me I might as well forget about it. She said she had an idea you were going to catch a cold.
She had an idea I was going to catch a cold?
Well, she mentioned something about transferring a student to your class who had a very bad cold.
How do you like that germ warfare? Well, you'll just have to postpone, Miss Enright, I'm afraid. I've made all arrangements to hold our barbecue tonight.
Well, it isn't the gentlemanly thing to do, but if you insist, I'll put her off.
I insist. Shove her off. What time can I expect you, Mr. Boynton?
Well, it doesn't do to start too early. That is to say, it's more fun when it's dark out.
Now you're talking.
The fire looks so much prettier at night. I love cooking out of doors. I used to be a Boy Scout, you know.
What do you mean used to be?
You're right at that. I'm still a scoutmaster. But as I was saying, once I get my fire started...
That'll be the day. I'm sorry, Mr. Boynton. Please continue.
Well, I cook my ribs first, then I cook my frankfurters, and after eating, I just like to sit around in the moonlight with something in my arms I really care for.
Oh, you're cooking with more than charcoal. But what, may I ask, is the something in your arms that you really care for?
Why, my ukulele, of course.
Of course. The better to slug the gophers with, my dear.
Brooks, starring Eve Arden, will continue in just a moment. But first, here is Vern Smith. Now, tests published in authoritative dental literature show that when teeth are brushed right after eating, Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best. 2 years' research at 5 leading universities, hundreds of case histories, shows that when used as directed, Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best. Yes, exhaustive tests show the Colgate way best to prevent decay. Better than any other home method of oral hygiene known today. Based on both clinical and X-ray examinations, the Colgate way stopped more decay for more people than ever before reported in all dentifrice history. Even more important, there were no new cavities whatever for more than 1 out of 3 who used Colgate Dental Cream as directed. Think of it, not even one new cavity in 2 full years. No other dentifrice, paste or powder, ammoniated or not, no other dentifrice has proof of such results. The best results ever reported for a dentifrice of any type. So always use Colgate to clean your breath while you clean your teeth. And remember, when you follow the Colgate way, Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best.
Well, when lunch period arrived, Mr. Boynton had to stay in his lab and groom some more guinea pigs. So I headed for the school cafeteria by myself. It was pretty crowded when I got there, but fortunately Walter Denton had saved a place for me at a corner table. I set my tray on it and sat down. There we are. Very nice of you to keep this place for me, Walter.
Glad to have incurred your pleasure, old Cletus Ashley. I count the day well spent, during which, by some slight act of thoughtfulness...
Thanks very much.
Yes, in fact... my cup of joy is running over, and
Walter, quick, get a napkin.
Oh, what happened?
Your cup of joy was joined by my cup of soup. Luckily, I got out of the way in time.
Oh, here, I'll mop up the table. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Brooks. I guess the spring weather's making me more poetic than usual. And besides, my romantic affairs have taken a rather surprising turn.
Good for you, Walter. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to eat what's left of this soup.
Now, go right ahead, Miss Brooks. But while you do, I've got a problem to thrash out. I simply cannot understand Mr. Conklin.
Give that boy a brand new Hudson.
He's an enigma, Miss Brooks. You take the night before last, for instance. I was sitting on the porch of his house with his daughter, Harriet. About 10 o'clock, he came out for a smoke and caught me holding her hand.
What did he do?
Well, all I can say is I wish I'd been holding his foot instead of her hand. Yeah, he almost kicked me down the porch steps.
Almost.
Fortunately, I dove over the side. But today, Harry had invited me over for dinner.
Well, that's no problem. Take your diving helmet and go.
You know, I never could understand Mr. Conklin's antipathy towards me, but today he didn't seem so bad. In fact, when I met him in the hall and told him I was having dinner at his home, he was practically civil to me. And Oh, but here I am babbling about me, and I haven't even asked about your recent ailment. Are you all over your cold?
Yes, Walter, I am.
Oh, good. Colds can lead into dangerous things.
Oh, I know. Laryngitis, bronchial trouble, Miss Enright.
Oh, no, I get it. While you were sick, she had a couple of dates with Mr. Boynton, huh?
She had 3, but who counts? Don't get me wrong, Walter. Miss Enright's a very fine English teacher, and as a fellow faculty member, she's entitled to go out with whomever she pleases. It's none of my business.
Until she goes from English to biology.
Now, Walter.
No, I don't blame you for getting annoyed, Miss Brooks. Miss Enright's pretty corny when the way she flirts.
Well, now that you mentioned it, I can only say she's about as square as they come. The device she employed yesterday proves that.
What device?
When she saw Mr. Boynton leaving school, she dropped her handkerchief.
No kidding. But why should that get you so sore, Miss Brooks?
It landed right on top of mine. What am I saying? Let's finish lunch, Walter.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Mr. Boynton, I guess you and Miss Enright would get along a lot better. She really likes you a lot. I can tell by the way she talks about you. Why, only this morning she said something very complimentary about your hair.
Miss Enright did?
Yes, ma'am. She said you've got the loveliest blonde hair she ever saw on a brunette.
Oh, she did?
Yeah. And then she said her hair was absolutely natural.
That's very true, Walter. It's one of the most natural wigs I've ever seen. Oh, I'm sorry if I sound bitter, but I guess I'll snap out of it after tonight.
Oh, you got a date with Mr. Boynton?
Yes, Walter. We're having a barbecue in my backyard. You know, spare ribs and romance, moonlight and mustard.
Oh, that sounds dynamic. Uh-oh. Look who's headed this way.
Oh, the cafeteria certainly is packed today. Oh, hello, Walter.
Hi, Miss Enright.
Do you mind if I sit here with you and your mother?
His mother?
Oh, it's you, Miss Brooks. Forgive me for taking you for Walter's mother, darling. My eyes must be playing tricks on me.
I guess it's still too light out for you. Pull up a sturdy chair and sit down, Miss Enright.
Thanks. You're a dear.
You're an antelope, but sit down anyway.
Oh, dear, I forgot to bring my coffee along. Would you go get me a cup, Walter?
Okay, Miss Enright. How do you want it? Cream and sugar?
No, just sugar, please.
Never mind that either, Walter. I've got some lumps for her right here. I took some extra cubes, Miss Enright.
Oh, how thoughtful. But then you always were considerate of others. Take this past week, for example. You didn't interfere at all while Mr. Boynton was dating me.
Nobody knows better than you do, Miss Enright, that I was home every night with a cold.
Well, that shouldn't depress you, dear. At least it proves there's something you can catch. Of course, I felt a bit guilty about taking advantage of your indisposition, but after all, you were cooped up in that stuffy little room of yours, and Mr. Boynton does love the great outdoors, and I am the outdoor type.
I'll say you are. Nobody ever invites you in. Look, Miss Enright, my cold is better now, and I think it only fair to warn you that Mr. Boynton and I are going to take up our relationship exactly where we left it.
Oh, poor Mr. Boynton. And to think for 5 whole days he hasn't had to wear his track shoes. Tell me, dear, has he granted you an evening in the foreseeable future?
In the very foreseeable future, Miss Enright. In fact, before I leave you to your black coffee and thoughts to match, there's something I think you should know. Mr. Boynton's coming to a barbecue tonight in my backyard.
Oh, how wonderful for him. He'll need all the fresh air he can get. That is, he does seem to enjoy himself in the open spaces. Take the evenings he spends in my backyard. We dine under the stars. Then Mr. Boynton strums his ukulele, and I sit in the hammock and sing.
In the hammock? That's very unnatural.
Unnatural?
When you sing, you should be sitting on a fence.
Walter? Oh, Walter Denton.
Oh, hi, Harriet. Gosh, I thought school would never end today. You want me to take you home? We might as well spend the afternoon there if we're going to have dinner with your folks.
I'm afraid that's all off, Walter. There isn't anything to eat at our house.
What?
It seems Daddy went home for lunch, and Mother asked him to fix the vacuum cleaner. Well, he fixed it all right, only he did it in the kitchen.
I don't quite follow you, my sweet.
Mother had everything for dinner laid out on top of the stove, and before Daddy knew it was fixed, the vacuum sucked up all the codfish balls.
Are you sure that was an accident?
Who can tell? Daddy never was very fond of codfish. But Mother was so upset she just picked up and went over to Grandmother's for the rest of the day. We're on our own as far as dinner's concerned.
Gee, that's too bad, Harriet. Wait a minute. If I can't be your guest tonight, how would you like to be mine?
Walter, that sounds just like a proposal.
What does? Oh, how would you like to be mine? No, I meant, how would you like to be mine for dinner? You understand, my guest for dinner, I meant.
But, Walter, you can't afford to take me to a restaurant.
Oh, you're very right, lovely one. But I won't have to take you to a restaurant. I'll take you to a dandy-free outdoor barbecue.
Where?
At Miss Brooks' place. She's having Mr. Boynton over for dinner.
But won't they want to be alone?
Well, she'll want to be alone, but you know how bashful he is. As soon as he's in the presence of a member of the opposite sex, he just dummies up. Now, we'll be doing Miss Brooks a favor to go. Oh, don't you see, Harriet? We'll save her hours of groundwork trying to warm him up.
But we haven't been invited, Walter.
What's that got to do with anything? Look, we'll only stay until we've got the ball rolling. We'll leave as soon as Mr. Boynton is nice and relaxed. And we're full of ribs and frankfurters.
Well, I've got the charcoal all laid out and burning. I set the barbecue up right under that big tree. Oh, it's a nice night for a barbecue, isn't it?
It's a nice night for anything.
You know, Miss Brooks, seeing you here so close with the shadows playing softly about your face, the moon shining on your hair as the firelight dances in your eyes, you'd be amazed at the thought that occurs to me.
No, I wouldn't. Where are the gopher traps?
Now you're teasing me, Miss Brooks. I haven't seen you all week, and I want you to know that...
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
That I brought along a quart of oil with me.
That seems like enough. End of oil.
It's a special brand for making the charcoal burn faster.
Well, what will they think of next? But before the oil, Mr. Boynton, you were saying?
Well, I was saying that it's nice to be alone here, just you and I.
Oh, it certainly is, Mr. Boynton. And we're really alone here. There's no way in or out of this yard except through that big wooden door in the fence.
Which wooden door?
That one. Excuse me a minute, Mr. Boynton.
No, okay. I'll go put some ribs and franks on the grill.
I can't imagine who this is.
Hi, Miss Brooks. It's me.
That's obvious. Well, what do you want, Walter? I thought you were dining with the Conklins.
We couldn't. Their vacuum cleaner sucked up the codfish balls. So I took the liberty of dropping in on you for some sustenance.
Well, here's a quarter. Sustain yourself at the drugstore.
Miss Brooks, I can't leave until my guest arrives.
Your guest?
Sure. I invited Harriet along. She's just checking with her dad. She'll be here any minute.
Oh, fine.
We just thought we'd get the party warmed up for you, Miss Brooks. You know, Mr. Boynton.
For your information, Walter, before you knocked on that door, Mr. Boynton was coming to a slow boil.
Okay, Miss. Oh, hello, Walter. Glad to see you.
Oh, same here, Mr. B. Nothing like a few friendly faces to help a tete-a-tete along, eh, what?
Oh, quiet.
Oh, that must be Harriet. I'll open it.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late.
That's all right. We played games till you got here.
Come on in, Harriet. I'll go put some more ribs and stuff on the grill.
Thanks, Mr. Boynton. Gee, this backyard of yours is adorable, Miss Brooks. Just a perfect setting for outdoor dining. Daddy'll get a big boot out of it.
Yes, I'm sure that... Who will get it?
Daddy! He didn't want to horn in, but when I told him how Walter and I were just planning to enhance your evening with Mr. Boynton, he consented to come.
Your father is coming here tonight?
That sounds like Daddy now.
What can I put against that door?
I'll get it, Miss Brooks.
Good evening, Denton. Harriet.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Conklin.
Greetings, Daddy.
Nice of you to ask me over, Miss Brooks.
Did I? Come in, Mr. Conklin.
In a moment. I took the liberty of bringing somebody with me. They gave me a lift over here, as a matter of fact. She's just parking the car. Charming person.
But, Mr. Conklin, who?
Who else but me, darling?
Miss Enright.
Miss Enright.
Well, let's not stand around the door. Let's go over by the barbecue. And dear Mr. Boynton. You, Mr. Boynton.
Why, it's Miss Enright.
Good evening, Mr. Boynton. Well, we're all here now, aren't we?
You're all here. But Mr. Boynton and I are having dinner someplace else.
Someplace else?
But where, Miss Brooks?
Where we can be alone, in the Conklin's vacuum cleaner.
Eve Arden returns in just a moment, but first...
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl.
Tonight? Yes, tonight, show him how much lovelier your hair can look after a Luster Cream shampoo. Luster Cream, world's finest shampoo. No other shampoo in the world gives you Kay Daumit's magic blend of secret ingredients plus gentle lanolin. Better than a soap, better than a liquid. Luster Cream is a dainty cream shampoo. Leaves hair 3 ways lovelier. Fragrantly clean. Free of loose dandruff. Glistening with sheen. Soft. Manageable. Even in hardest water, Luster Cream lathers instantly. No special rinse needed after a Luster Cream shampoo. So gentle, Luster Cream is wonderful even for children's hair. Tonight? Yes, tonight, try Luster Cream shampoo.
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl. You owe your crowning glory to a luster cream shampoo.
And now, once again, here is Eve Arden.
Opportunity is an American word. To Americans, it has special meanings, like education for everyone. And the college education of 1/10 of the country's population depends on the private, accredited colleges and universities that are training the majority of the nation's Negro youth. Today, the United Negro College Fund appeals to you for help. Your gift to the United Negro College Fund is your contribution to community progress and interracial goodwill.
Next week, tune into another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis, Joe Quillen, and Lester White, with the music of Wilbur Hatch under the direction of Maurice Carlton. Mr. Boynton is played by Jeff Chandler, Mr. Conklin by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Gloria McMillan, and Mary Jane Croft.
Doctors prove Palmolive soap can bring you a lovelier complexion in 14 days. Yes, 36 leading skin specialists proved in tests on 1,285 different women that Palmolive soap facials using nothing but Palmolive brought new complexion beauty to 2 women out of 3. Just wash your face 3 times daily with Palmolive soap, each time for 60 seconds, massaging Palmolive's beauty lather onto your skin. Then rinse. So start your Palmolive facials today. Remember, doctors prove Palmolive soap can bring you a lovelier complexion in 14 days.
For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North, the exciting, fun-packed adventures of an amateur detective and his beautiful wife. Tune in Tuesday evening over most of these same stations. And be with us again next week at this same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. And Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden.
It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, most students won't have their final exams for several weeks yet. But our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, has had to undergo quite a few impromptu tests recently.
Yes, our beloved principal, Mr. Conklin, has taken to conducting a series of sudden little quiz shows without prizes to see if the faculty is on its toes. Fortunately, when Mr. Conklin came into my classroom last Friday morning, he found me very much on my toes, due to a habit formed in my childhood of sitting with my feet curled beneath me. Although it was my free period, I sprang to attention when Mr. Conklin entered.
At ease? Miss Brooks, conjugate the word strive, please.
Strive, strove, striven.
Now, thrive.
Thrive, throve, thriven. No. Oh, really, Mr. Conklin? These sudden little tests are quite disconcerting.
Silence, Miss Brooks. We're not finished.
Yes, sir. More verbs?
Five,
fove, fiven. Now, wait a minute, Mr. Conklin. Five isn't a verb.
Thank you, Miss Brooks. I knew my visit to your room would produce some valuable bit of information. My main reason for dropping in, however, was to ask you to do me a favor, Miss Brooks. As you know, Sunday is Mother's Day.
Yes, I know, Mr. Conklin. Thanks to a special savings plan I started in February, I was able to send my mother a card this morning. But what did you want me to do for you?
I'd like you to take this package home with you and keep it until Sunday morning. It's a little Mother's Day remembrance for Mrs. Conklin. I don't want her to stumble upon it before time. Wonderful woman, Mrs. Conklin, and she's trained our daughter Harriet to be a duplicate of herself.
Really?
Yes. Between them, they're the two biggest snoopers in the county.
That makes it unanimous. I'll be happy to keep the package for you, Mr. Conklin.
Thank you, Miss Brooks. I hope my daughter Harriet remembers Mother's Day. Lately, she's had her mind on nothing but that moon-eyed, calf-brained Walter Denton.
Oh, Walter isn't so bad, Mr. Conklin. Of course, he's not a brilliant student.
Brilliant? Walter Denton is Madison's gift to subnormality. The thing that annoys me most is the way he bounces. He never goes anywhere. He always bounces there.
Hi, Miss Brooks. I just thought I'd bounce in for a minute.
Well, if it isn't the human handball.
Oh, hello, Mr. Conklin. Oh, if I'm interrupting anything, I'll just bounce along until
No, Walter. Mr. Conklin was about to dribble back to his office. You were finished with me, weren't you, Mr. Conklin?
Quite. Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye, Mr. Conklin.
Hasta la vista, Mr. Conklin. I learned that in Spanish. It means see you later.
Oh. Well, no si lo veo a usted primero.
What does that mean, Miss Brooks?
That means not if I see you first. Now, what can I do for you, Walter?
Well, I need some advice, Miss Brooks. It's about a Mother's Day gift, but a very special type of mother, Miss Brooks. That is, well, I know it's impossible right now, but just for supposition's sake, suppose you woke up one day and found yourself a mother.
I have a mother. Of course, she's miles away.
No, I don't mean it that way, Miss Brooks. I mean, if you awoke to find that you were a mother, what would your first question be?
What did it weigh, Doc?
Are you sure, Miss Brooks? Are you quite certain you wouldn't say, how is my husband?
Not me. I might say, who is my husband?
No. Miss Brooks, I'm serious. My dad told me that was my mother's first concern after she knew I was all right. You know, she thinks of us constantly and never of herself. But me, what do I do in return? I don't get out of bed when she wakes me. I'm always late for my meals. I never help her with the dishes, and I leave my clothes all over the house. Well, Sunday is Mother's Day, Miss Brooks, and I've got to make it up to her.
Well, that's pretty short notice, Walter, but I have a suggestion for you.
You have?
Yes. Sunday morning, wait till your mother starts to make breakfast. When you're sure she's in the kitchen, close the door quietly behind her.
Then?
Then gather up all the clothes that you've scattered around the house.
Then?
Then put them in a big suitcase.
Then?
Run away from home. I'm just teasing you, Walter. There's only one way you can make your mother happy, and that's by turning over a new leaf.
Well, I'll try, Miss Brooks, but meanwhile, just supposing again, well, what kind of a present would you like if you were a mother?
Oh, I wouldn't care much about presents, Walter. I'd just be happy if I had all my beloved children around me.
Gee. Well, of course, my mother only has this one beloved child. Me. But it's a lovely sentiment. However, I'd still like to figure out a little gift of some sort. Oh, what would make a young mother like yourself happy?
A young father like Mr. Boynton. Which reminds me, Walter, it's time for me to get down to his laboratory and pick him up for lunch.
Oh, did he invite you for lunch today?
Of course he did, about 10 minutes from now.
Now, tell me, Walter, were you able to find out what kind of a gift Miss Brooks would like?
I couldn't find out a thing, Harriet.
But we've got to get her something. What's the good of naming Miss Brooks our mother away from mother if we can't surprise her with something she wants? Now, let me see. We'll organize a committee, pick out a gift, and give it to Miss Brooks.
Great, Harriet. Then tonight will officially become Mother Away from Mother's Day night.
Well, I certainly enjoyed that lunch. Our cafeteria cook seems to be getting better.
He should be getting better. He eats his meals across the street.
I meant the food's improving. Now that we've finished lunch, Miss Brooks, I have a surprise for you.
Surprise? What is it, Mr. Boynton?
Guess.
One of your guinea pigs died and left you $1 million.
No.
Then I give up.
Well, Miss Brooks, I want you to meet my folks.
Why, Mr. Boynton, you've only known me for 5 years. This is such...
I just found out they were coming to town myself. You see, they usually spend Mother's Day with my married brother, but Mom decided that this year it's my turn.
To do what? Oh. You mean your turn to spend Mother's Day together?
Oh, that's right. Oh, you'll love my mother, Miss Brooks. She used to be a school teacher, too, you know. As a matter of fact, she worked herself up until she was a principal.
You got to get pretty worked up to be a principal. Oh, I'm sure we'll get along splendidly.
And you'll be crazy about my dad. Oh, what a sense of humor he's got. You know, he's the one who told me the joke about the quizmaster who called out, "I've got a lady, doctor," but before he could ask her any questions, she stuck a thermometer in his mouth and took his pulse. Isn't that a scream?
Your father sounds like more fun than a barrel of depressed monkeys. May I ask you a rather personal question about your folks, Mr. Boynton?
Oh, certainly, Miss Brooks. What is it?
How long did they go around together before they were married?
9 years.
I see. Folks believed in long engagements in those days, I guess.
Oh, they weren't engaged until 6 weeks before the wedding.
6 weeks?
Mm-hmm. Once Dad makes up his mind about something, he's greased lightning.
Could have used a little greasing the first 8 years. I'll certainly be looking forward to seeing them, Mr. Boynton. When are they arriving in town?
Oh, this afternoon, Miss Brooks. I'll have to check them into a hotel for the weekend. I've just got a small bachelor apartment.
Yes, I know. You've told me about it. Maybe your folks would like to drop over to Mrs. Davis's tonight. I'm sure my landlady wouldn't mind my dusting the living room a little.
Well, that's just fine with me, Miss Brooks. That'll give the folks a chance to rest up from their trip and have some dinner before they meet the girl about whom they've heard so much.
Why, Mr. Boynton, you mean you actually wrote to your folks about me?
Oh, and how, Miss Brooks? I've written them many times about how gay and youthful and exuberant you are.
I am? I mean, you have?
Darn right. I remember in one of my most recent letters to them, I said you were more like a pupil than a teacher. In fact, I think that was a letter in which I described you as a great big overgrown kid.
Maybe I better take something.
You should have seen the answer I got from Dad. He said, "Whatever you do, son, don't rob the cradle."
Leave it to Dad.
Oh, he was jesting, of course. He loves youngsters.
Mr. Boynton, you've given me an idea.
What kind of an idea, Miss Brooks?
If your father turns me down when I ask him for your hand, maybe he'll adopt me.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, will continue in just a moment. But first, here is Vern Smith.
Now, tests published in authoritative dental literature show that when teeth are brushed right after eating,
Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best.
2 years' research at 5 leading universities, hundreds of case histories, shows that when used as directed,
Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best.
Yes, exhaustive tests show the Colgate way best to prevent decay. Better than any other home method of oral hygiene known today.
Based on both clinical and X-ray examinations, the Colgate way stopped more decay for more people than ever before reported in all dentifrice history.
Even more important, there were no new cavities whatever for more than 1 out of 3 who used Colgate Dental Cream as directed. Think of it. Not even 1 new cavity in 2 full years.
No other dentifrice, paste or powder, ammoniated or not, no other dentifrice has proof of such results. The best results ever reported for a dentifrice of any type.
So always use Colgate to clean your breath while you clean your teeth. And remember, when you follow the Colgate way,
Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best.
Well, I hurried home right after school and put Mr. Conklin's gift to his wife on my dresser. Then I started to make myself and the house as presentable as possible for Mr. Boynton's parents. First of all, I took a shower and set my hair in pin curls. Then I put on an old, oversized house dress which I had borrowed from Mrs. Davis. This intriguing combination achieved the happy effect of making me look like a rat drowning in a Quonset hut. Then I went into the living room to get things in order. When I got there, Mrs. Davis had just finished vacuuming.
Oh, Connie, will you pull the plug out for me? My back's been bothering me lately.
Certainly, Mrs. Davis. There. Say, this vacuum cleaner's pretty old, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. But it's held up remarkably well. I bought it in 1932.
1932?
Yes. This Hoover came in when the other one went out.
Well, just so the place looks nice and neat for tonight. You know, I've never met Mr. Boynton's parents before.
I know you haven't, Connie. And first impressions are so important. That's why I sent our sofa and all the chairs out to be recovered.
What?
Every chair in the house is at the upholsterer's, Connie. But don't worry. Stretch Snodgrass took them down for me, and he promised to bring them back by 6 o'clock.
Stretch Snodgrass? Look, Mrs. Davis, Stretch may be a fine athlete, but when it comes to mentality, he's strictly a third strike. Why, he's liable to forget where he took the chairs.
Oh, I don't think so, Connie. You know how absent-minded I am, and even I couldn't forget the name of this upholsterer.
Why not?
Because he has a very odd name.
What is it?
What is what?
The name.
Whose name?
The upholsterer.
Upholsterer?
Yes. Look, Mrs. Davis, the sofa and all our chairs are being recovered today.
Well, they can certainly use it. Where did you send them, Connie?
Fellow with a very odd name. I never can remember it.
Yeah, I'm sure it will come back to you later. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go out and back and look for our cat.
Minerva? Is she missing again?
Mm-hmm. She had a date this morning.
A date?
Yes, I heard her making it last night. But she should be back by now. She knows how I worry about her. Well, you let me know if she comes in the front way, Connie, and I'll take a look back here.
All right, Mrs. Davis. That's funny. Minerva never bothered to ring before. Coming!
How do you do, my dear?
How do you do?
I'm Philip's mother.
Philip?
Yes, Philip Boynton. I'm Mrs. Boynton.
Oh, but that's impossible. You won't be here until tonight. Come in, Mrs. Boynton.
Well, you don't have to tell me who you are, my dear. Philip has written so much about you.
He has?
Yes, he says Miss Brooks wouldn't know what to do without you, Mrs. Davis.
Well, I try my best to please... Mrs. Davis?
Did you call, Connie?
That's Mrs. Davis, Mrs. Boynton. I'm Miss Brooks, such as I am. We've got company, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, she came in the front way, did she?
Yes, she's right here in the living room.
Well, you tell her she's a wicked cat. And...
Yes, Mrs. Davis. You're a wicked cat and get under the... No! Oh, you'll have to forgive me, Mrs. Boynton. I didn't expect you until after dinner. And
That's
I'm a little
perfectly all
upset
right,
about
Miss Brooks. As a matter of fact, I owe you an apology for not recognizing you. But it was rather dim in here, and I...
Not dim enough. Where's Mr. Boynton? Or should I say, where are Mr. Boyntons? Or Mr. Boynton? Where is everybody?
Trouble parking the car.
Oh.
I wanted to meet you first myself anyway. Philip's written so much about you. You must see an awful lot of each other.
Well, we do teach at the same school. I understand you were a teacher at one time, Mrs. Boynton.
Oh, yes, indeed, for many years.
It's remarkable. You still look so well fed.
May we come in?
Oh, it's the boys. Hello, Philip, my dear.
Oh, hello, Mom. Well, I see you two have met.
Oh, yes, indeed. We're old friends by now.
Well, here she is, Dad.
How do you do, my dear? I hear you've been just like a mother to Miss Brooks, Mrs. Davis.
This house dress has got to go.
This isn't Mrs. Davis, Harvey. This is Miss Brooks.
What? Oh, well, you know what I always say. A bad beginning makes a good finish. Not that I'm finished. We happen to be of English extraction. Say, speaking of extraction, I visited my dentist last week, and he told me 2 of my teeth had to come out. So I said, what are you going to charge me for pulling those 2 teeth, Doc? $10, he says. Oh, says I, then what'll you charge just to loosen them a little?
See, I told you. Oh, what a sense of humor.
No, it's nothing.
He's hot stuff, all right.
Oh, he sure is. But why are we all standing out here in the hall?
Yes, let's all go and stand in the living room. Just follow me. Well, here we are. Now then, Mrs. Boynton, if you'll just come over to this lamp. This is a very comfortable place to stand. And, Mr. Boynton, you can stand over there by the piano.
I don't understand, Miss Brooks. Where are all the chairs?
They're out being recovered. I didn't expect you for hours yet, Mr. Boynton. This is a terrible thing to do to anybody.
Well, I'm sorry, Miss Brooks, but it couldn't be helped. You see, there's a convention in town, and I couldn't get the folks accommodations anywhere. You know how big my room is, and, well, I wondered if you and Mrs. Davis could put the folks up for the weekend.
Why, Phillips, I'm surprised at you. You know better than to whisper in front of others.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mother. I was just explaining our predicament to Miss Brooks. She was saying how delighted she'd be to have you stay for a couple of days.
Well, now, that's what I call whopping hospitality.
It's a whopper, all right.
Give me a hand with the garbage, Connie. I beg your pardon.
This is Mr. and Mrs. Boynton. And this, contrary to popular opinion, is Mrs. Davis.
How do you do?
Good afternoon, Mrs. D. Nice little place you've got here.
I've just invited the folks to spend the weekend with us, Mrs. Davis. If you don't mind my doubling up with you, I figured they could have my room.
Oh, that's perfectly all right. Oh, dear, the upholsterer. You folks must be tired after your trip. Why don't you go to bed?
Bed? But it's only 4:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, she was only kidding, Mrs. Boynton. Mrs. Davis, why don't you take the folks up to my room?
Well, I could do with a bit of freshening up at that.
Yeah, nonsense, Mother. You're as fresh as the day I got you.
Cut it out, Dad.
Yes, cut it out, Dad.
Well, Miss Brooks certainly has a comfortable room, Harvey.
Yes, indeed. That little catnap is just what the doctor ordered.
Tell the truth, Harvey. Don't you think Miss Brooks is setting her cap for Philip?
Oh, is that a cap? I thought that shroud she was wearing had a snoot on it.
Oh, be serious, Harvey. We both know he'll make a wonderful husband when he grows up.
When he grows up?
To me, he's still a baby. You know how innocent he is.
Yes, and sometimes I think it's all my own fault. Sometimes I think that by now I should have sat him down and had a man-to-man talk with him. Although my father didn't have a man-to-man talk with me until I was past 30. And at that, I married you anyway. Hey, what's this package on the dresser here? It says, for Mother. Must be for you.
Oh, well, now, wasn't that thoughtful of Miss Brooks? She got a Mother's Day gift for me when she heard I was coming. I'm going to open it right away.
Yeah, Mother's Day isn't until Sunday.
Now, you know I'd never have the patience to wait. Oh, now, let's see. Why, what's this? A black silk negligee.
Well, happy Mother's Day!
This can't be for me.
Hey, look, this card fell out when you opened the package. It says, for baby from her goodie.
Well, I'm going to find out just where this came from. Oh, Miss Brooks.
Yes, Mrs. Boynton?
Would you come here a moment, please?
Certainly, Mrs. Boynton. What can I do for you?
Well, I opened a package by mistake and found this inside of it.
A black sheer negligee.
There was a card with it that said, for baby from Goody.
Goody? Oh, that must be short for Osgood. Why, of course, that was Mr. Conklin's gift.
Mr. Conklin? The principal of Madison High?
Yes, isn't he a devil? He asked me to keep it for him so his wife wouldn't discover it before Mother's Day.
Oh, it's for his wife.
Yes. Who did you think it was for? Don't answer that. I can tell from the position of your eyebrows.
My eyebrows?
Yes, Mrs. Boynton. You'd better drop them a notch. You're pushing back your hairnet.
Oh, this dinner certainly is delicious, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Boynton. But Miss Brooks is the one who deserves the credit. She prepared it all.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Davis. You opened every bit as much as I did.
Eat it slowly, Philip.
Yes, Mother.
Remember, your stomach has no teeth.
Yeah, maybe that's just as well. If it got too hungry, you could chew off your suspender buttons.
He always gets me when I've got a mouthful.
You had a mouthful. Here's the napkin.
Philip, you're such a baby.
Well, you're right there, Mrs. Boynton. He's nothing but a great big overgrown kid.
Now, that's funny. That's the same phrase Philip used in describing you in one of his letters.
Well, she is, Mother. You ought to see her around the school. The students just treat her like one of themselves.
Yes, indeed. We kids have some great old times together.
I'll answer it, Connie. Excuse me, folks.
I wonder who that could be.
Well, come in, kids.
Hi, Mrs. Davis. We're a committee.
It's Walter and Harriet, Connie.
Oh, we didn't mean to disturb you, Miss Brooks.
Oh, that's all right, Walter. I was just telling the folks how informal we are at Madison. Mr. and Mrs. Boynton, may I present Harriet Conklin and Walter Denton?
Mr. Boynton, nice to know you. And now, Miss Brooks, we would like to present something to you that expresses the devotion and reverence felt toward you by the entire student body.
Oh, what is it?
It's a shawl. A shawl and a handsome pair of knitting needles to go with the rocking chair to which you're so attached. Plus which, you have been chosen our mother away from mother.
Oh, no.
I'll go to the piano, Walter, and you sing the song we've written.
Okay, Harriet. Wait till you hear this, folks.
All set, Walter.
The B stands for the books she helps us study. The R is for she's righteous, also pure. The O is for the fact that she's our buddy. The second O is likewise, I am sure. The K is for okay, she rates a bow. The S is for her sadly wrinkled brow. She's motherly, just like Elsie the cow. Miss Brooks, we love you dearly.
Miss Brooks, that's me. I'll always be Miss Brooks.
Eve Arden as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl.
Tonight? Yes, tonight. Show him how much lovelier your hair can look after a Luster Cream shampoo. Luster Cream, world's finest shampoo. No other shampoo in the world gives you Kay Daumit's magic blend of secret ingredients plus gentle lanolin. Better than a soap, better than a liquid. Luster Cream is a dainty cream shampoo. Leaves hair 3 ways lovelier. Fragrantly clean. Free of loose dandruff. Glistening with sheen. Soft. Manageable. Even in hardest water, Luster Cream lathers instantly. No special rinse needed after a Luster Cream shampoo. So gentle, Luster Cream is wonderful even for children's hair. Tonight? Yes, tonight, try Luster Cream shampoo.
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl. You owe your crowning glory to a luster cream shampoo.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, several days later, Friday night came to an end. As I escorted Mr. Boynton to the front door, he was in a strangely mellow mood.
You know, Miss Brooks, I'm a man of many dreams. But more often than not, I find I'm shooting too high.
Shooting too high, Mr. Boynton?
Oh, yes, in trying to find the right girl, for instance. It seems that subconsciously I'm always looking for a girl who's just like my mother. Attractive, yet sweet and unselfish.
Well, don't give up the search, Mr. Boynton. Someday you're liable to find such a girl right under your nose. And I think that's a very nice location.
What I mean is, when you gave up your room for Mother, I suddenly realized you're not only attractive, but also sweet and unselfish. So, Miss Brooks, instead of just shaking hands like we usually do...
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
Well, I'd like to say goodnight to you the way I do to my mother, with a kiss.
A kiss, Mr. Boynton?
Yes, on the forehead.
There you go, shooting too high again.
Next week, tune into another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis, Lester White, and Joe Quillen, with the music of Wilbur Hatch under the direction of Maurice Carlton.
Doctors prove Palmolive soap can bring you a lovelier complexion in 14 days. Yes, 36 leading skin specialists proved in tests on 1,285 different women that Palmolive soap facials using nothing but Palmolive brought new complexion beauty to 2 women out of 3. Just wash your face 3 times daily with Palmolive soap, each time for 60 seconds, massaging Palmolive's beauty lather onto your skin. Then rinse. So start your Palmolive facials today. Remember, doctors prove Palmolive soap can bring you a lovelier complexion in 14 days.
For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North, the exciting, fun-packed adventures of an amateur detective and his beautiful wife. Tune in Tuesday evening over most of these same stations. And be with us again next week at the same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. The CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden.
It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, this is National Pickle Week. And among others who celebrated the occasion was our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School.
I celebrated National Pickle Week, all right, by getting myself into the prettiest pickle you've ever seen. It all started innocently enough when my landlady and I sat down to breakfast last Thursday morning.
There's your cereal, Connie. Now tell me, dear, have you made any plans for your vacation next month?
Nothing definite, Mrs. Davis.
Perhaps it's just as well not to plan too far in advance. Who knows what summer may bring? You might even elope. Have you ever thought of that, Connie?
Many times, Mrs. Davis. I'd do it in a minute, too, if it weren't for a stubborn little streak in me which keeps insisting that it's no fun to elope by yourself.
I didn't mean by yourself, Connie. What's wrong with Mr. Boynton?
For submitting the outstanding question of the week, we are sending Mrs. Margaret Davis a lifetime supply of Dutch boy paint. I wish I knew what was wrong with Mr. Boynton. All he talks about lately is his impending vacation in South America.
South America? What a wonderful idea. And it simplifies everything.
It does?
Of course. If Mr. Boynton is going to South America, that's where you have to go.
The thought has occurred to me, Mrs. Davis, but there's one thing that stands in the way. Transportation.
Transportation?
Yes, one of my water wings has a blowout.
Don't be discouraged by your present financial state, Connie. I'll go make some tea and read your tea leaves in a little while. Maybe there'll be some good news in your cup. Why, at this very moment, Lady Luck may be camping on your doorstep.
Well, don't sit there, lady. Come on in.
Greetings, most gracious and scintillating educator.
Thank you, most generous and observant pupil. Sit down, Walter, and have some toast and jelly.
Oh, thanks.
What kind of a plant is that you're holding?
It's a rare black orchid, Miss Brooks. Here.
An orchid? Must have cost you quite a bit of money, Walter.
Pish tush! The blossom cost me nothing. Besides, this is no time to concern ourselves with petty monetary considerations. I'm going to be rich, Miss Brooks. Wealthy beyond all dreams of avarice. The fabulous treasures of the universe are within my grasp.
Say, buddy, could you spare a round-trip ticket to South America?
No, I'm serious, Miss Brooks. I've discovered uranium.
Uranium? Where?
On my shoe.
Who's your bootblack?
It's no joke, Miss Brooks. I made the discovery in the chem lab. We got a brand new Geiger counter, and it's... by the way, have you ever used a Geiger counter?
I haven't had to, Walter. Very few of my pupils are named Geiger.
No. I'm afraid you don't understand. A Geiger counter is an instrument that measures the number and intensity of emanations from radioactive substances.
Sounds terribly talented. But how did you get mixed up with it?
Well, I climbed on a desk to fix a light bulb, and my shoe got near the Geiger counter. You should have heard it. It almost blew its top. That means uranium's on my shoe. Now, the way I figure it, all I've got to do is retrace my steps of the past few days.
Wouldn't it be easier to just start mining your shoe?
Please, Miss Brooks. No, you got to help me. You see, the counter is school property and can't be removed from the building without Mr. Conklin's permission. But if a teacher were to ask
Oh,
him...
not me, Walter. I'd like to assist you in this project, but now is the wrong time. Tuesday, I knocked a bowl of soup into his lap in the cafeteria, and last week I dropped a typewriter on his foot.
Oh.
Say, it's almost 8:15. I better park this orchid in the icebox and get ready to leave. Have a glass of milk, Walter. I'll just be a minute.
Okay, Miss Brooks.
Oh, it's you, Connie. The tea is almost ready.
I'm afraid I won't have time for the reading, Mrs. Davis. I just want to put this in the icebox.
My, what a lovely stalk of asparagus.
Don't let Walter Denton hear you say that. This happens to be a black orchid.
Oh, but you shouldn't put that in the icebox, Connie. It won't do anybody any good there. Why don't you take it down to school with you and give it to Mr. Conklin?
Mr. Conklin?
Yes. You told me yourself you've been naughty lately. Maybe this little gift would make up for your recent habit of dropping things on him.
Say, it might at that. Although I wouldn't want Walter to find out that I gave away his present.
Walter wouldn't mind. Besides, he won't know anything about it. I'll just put the flower into this box that the clean laundry came in, tie it with this red ribbon, and presto, you've got a peace offering for your principal.
Thanks, Mrs. Davis. I'm sure nothing could make him happier unless I was tied up in the box.
Gosh, Miss Brooks, I wish you'd reconsider my proposition about that Geiger counter. If you'll just get us permission to use it, I'll make you a 50-50 partner in whatever we find.
It's a more than liberal offer, Walter, but I'm afraid I can't take advantage of it. Right now, I'm trying to figure a good method of stowing away to South America.
Well, all right, Miss Brooks, but I hate the thought of passing up a possible bonus of $10,000 offered for discoveries of uranium.
I know, Walter, and I can't say that it's altogether impossible, but as far as the immediate future is concerned, did you say $10,000?
That's right. And if it's a big field, we might even get 10 times that much.
Open the throttle, Casey, and point me at Mr. Conklin's office.
Well, I finished straightening up your office, Daddy.
Thanks, Harriet. Run along, child.
Isn't there anything else I can do?
You can leave me alone. Now get to your first class.
Daddy, you're irritated this morning.
Harriet, you're another Ellery Queen. It so happens that some vandal broke into my garden, trampled my flower beds, and stole a rare black orchid.
I didn't know that.
I just found out about it myself. I've been nursing that plant along for 7 years. I was planning to give that orchid to your dear mother. It's her birthday today, you know.
Yes, I know.
Now I'll probably have to buy a present for the old... It's a hard gift. If I ever get my hands on the scoundrel who'd... Enter.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
Oh, it's you.
Hi, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Harriet.
I was just leaving the office, Miss Brooks. Try and cheer Daddy up a bit, will you? He's rather low this morning. I'll see you at lunch, Daddy. Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, Mr. Conklin, isn't this a bright and cheerful morning?
Be brief, Miss Brooks. What brings you to my office?
I just came in to leave this little gift.
Gift?
Yes, sir. May I put it on your desk?
If you think you can do so without knocking the typewriter off on my foot again. What else?
Mr. Conklin, I should like your permission to borrow the Geiger counter from the chem lab.
Geiger counter?
I believe that's what it's called. It's used to indicate the presence of uranium.
Miss Brooks, are you planning to pelt me with an A-bomb?
Certainly not, Mr. Conklin. I couldn't even lift an A-bomb. But I've heard that there's quite a reward for discovering new uranium deposits, and I thought maybe
Kindly leave the premises.
But, Mr. Conklin,
I am in no mood to discuss this nonsensical project at this moment. I've had a most difficult morning. Nay, a shocking morning.
What happened, Mr. Conklin?
I don't know how versed you are in things botanical, Miss Brooks.
Oh, I'm pretty versed.
Several years ago, I purchased a rare plant. For the first few years, it failed to bloom. I tried everything. Finally, I ceased to rely on the hit-or-miss methods of plant propagation employed by a bunch of buzzing bees, and I pollinated that plant personally. Do you realize what that entailed?
Of course, you had to smear your feet with honey and jump from petal to petal.
No, Miss Brooks. But there are other back-breaking procedures which I pursued faithfully for 7 long years, until finally my efforts bore fruit.
You became the father of a lemon tree.
Wrong again. An orchid plant. A black orchid plant. Just yesterday, it started to bloom, and I said to myself, "You're a lucky man, Osgood. Tomorrow this lovely flower will blossom just in time for your wife Martha's birthday." And then do you know what happened this morning?
Yes. I mean, no.
Some vandal stole it.
Well, I guess I better be running along.
Miss Brooks, where are you taking that box? I thought you said it was a gift.
Oh, it is a gift, Mr. Conklin, but not for you. That is, not actually. It's for Mrs. Conklin. Her birthday, you know. Just a little remembrance.
Well, you can leave it here. I'll take it to her after school. I'd like to see what it is before I take it.
Oh, no. I'd rather you didn't see it, Mr. Conklin. That is, well, it's underwear.
That's all right. We share a dresser, you know. Now, put it down and get to your classroom.
But, Mr.
Dismissed! One thing before you go. If you should happen to hear any of the students, or faculty for that matter, discussing a black orchid, would you please make a confidential note of the party's name?
Confidential? I won't even read it to myself.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, will continue in just a moment. But first, here is Vern Smith.
Now, tests published in authoritative dental literature show that when teeth are brushed right after eating,
Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best.
2 years' research at 5 leading universities, hundreds of case histories, shows that when used as directed,
Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best.
Yes, exhaustive tests show the Colgate way best to prevent decay. Better than any other home method of oral hygiene known today.
Based on both clinical and X-ray examinations, the Colgate way stopped more decay for more people than ever before reported in all dentifrice history.
Even more important, there were no new cavities whatever for more than 1 out of 3 who used Colgate Dental Cream as directed. Think of it. Not even 1 new cavity in 2 full years.
No other dentifrice, paste or powder, ammoniated or not, no other dentifrice has proof of such results. The best results ever reported for a dentifrice of any type.
So always use Colgate to clean your breath while you clean your teeth. And remember, when you follow the Colgate way,
Colgate Dental Cream stops tooth decay best.
Well, my morning classes passed without any undue noise from the principal's office. So I assumed that Mr. Conklin hadn't found time to open the box containing his own black orchid, so thoughtfully provided for me by Walter Denton. When lunch period arrived, I hurried to the biology laboratory to let Mr. Boynton in on the ground floor of my predicament. Busy, Mr. Boynton?
Oh, not at all, Miss Brooks. Come on in.
Before we go to lunch, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. It's really silly, I guess, but I was rather embarrassed this morning.
Embarrassed?
It all started when Walter Denton came to pick me up and told me some ridiculous story about finding uranium on his shoes.
Oh, that isn't completely ridiculous, Miss Brooks. As a matter of fact, it was more or less confirmed in the chem lab by the reaction of the Geiger counter.
You mean that Walter did actually step into uranium?
Well, not necessarily. It could be some similar radioactive substance. You realize, of course, that the Geiger counter is an extremely sensitive instrument. It'll even pick up emanations from your radium dial wristwatch.
All the way from Fisher's pawn shop?
It's a wonderful invention. And while Walter's shoe may not necessarily indicate the presence of any large field nearby, it's still a rather provocative incident.
I'll say it is. Half of $10,000 is very provocative. If one were to discover some uranium, one would never miss the money it cost for a summer vacation, would one?
Well, I should think not.
I'm going to South America myself.
South America? Well, that's funny. I'm going to spend my vacation down there.
You too? What a coincidence. When are you leaving?
The day school ends, June 23rd.
You too? What boat are you taking?
The SS Brazil.
You too? What cabin will you be? Oh, no, I just meant that if we're going to be in Brazil at the same time, it ought to make it very pleasant for both of us. They say the nights down there are very conducive to romance.
Yes, I've heard something to that effect.
In fact, on most June nights in Brazil, the stars seem to be so low in the sky that you can reach out and touch each other.
Please, Miss Brooks, I don't like to change the subject, but...
Not much you don't. That's all right, Mr. Boynton. Brazil can wait. What is it you wanted to say?
Well, I'd like to show you just how the Geiger counter reacts. Mr. Keller has a tiny sample of uranium in the chem lab. It's usually under lock and key, though, and...
Hi, Miss Brooks. Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Walter.
I just dropped by to take another look at the Geiger counter. Did you tell Mr. Boynton about the swell black orchid I gave you, Miss Brooks?
I was just about to. Walter gave me a fine black orchid this morning, Mr. Boynton.
A black orchid? Say, they're mighty rare. Must have been cultivated for about 7 years. Most likely in a hothouse.
This one is hotter than that. Walter, I don't usually give away presents, but I think you ought to know that in trying to get on Mr. Conklin's good side, I gave him the black orchid.
You gave Mr. Conklin the... I better get a glass of milk. I don't feel so good.
Just a minute, young man. Why did you steal that flower from Mr. Conklin's garden?
Well, it wasn't really stealing. I was only getting even. Every time Mr. Conklin passes our house, he strolls through the gate and gloms a rose for himself.
Well, rose glomming isn't orchid glomming. Besides, why did you have to make me the fence?
The fence?
Receiver of stolen goods. I've been reading a lot of Chaucer lately.
I'm sorry about the whole thing, Miss Brooks. But tell me, what did Mr. Conklin say when he saw his own orchid?
Luckily for both of us, he hasn't opened the box yet.
Well, then maybe if someone could get into his office...
You too? That's just what I was thinking.
You too? I just saw Harriet in the hall. Of course, she doesn't know about what I did, but she told me your dad went shopping.
Then maybe we can remove the plant before he comes back.
Exactly. And I've got a scheme that'll make it impossible for old Marblehead, Mr. Conklin, to incriminate any of us. Are you with me?
What's the layout, Louie?
Well, I snipped the orchid off at the bottom. It's still got a long stem, see? Now, as soon as it gets dark, we can sneak back into his garden, stick the stem in the ground, and when he sees it tomorrow, he'll think something was wrong with his eyes this morning. And then when he snips it off, he won't know it has no roots.
Walter, you're a genius.
But Mr. Conklin's bound to find out it has no roots when another orchid fails to grow.
Maybe so, but in 7 years, we can cook up a dilly of an alibi.
I'll keep a watch here at the door, Miss Brooks.
All right, Mr. Boynton. Now hurry, Walter. We've got to get that box off Mr. Conklin's desk before he gets back.
Okay, Miss Brooks. There, I've got it.
He's coming down the hall.
We better get out of here.
It's too late. He'll see us. Quick, get rid of the box.
What box?
The one you're holding, Walter.
Oh, here, you hold this, Mr. Boynton.
All right. I don't want this. Here, Miss Brooks, here's a nice orchid for you.
For me? How sweet of you, Miss. What am I saying? Here, you take this, Walter.
I'm allergic. Keep it.
Quick, Miss Brooks, toss it out the window.
The window? Where is it? Oh, right here. Open, thank goodness. There you go.
Hello, what's everybody doing in my... Miss Brooks, may I inquire what it was you just threw out of my window?
Who, me?
That is your name, isn't it, Brooks? Or do you shot put under a nom de plume?
Well, I do remember tossing something out, but it was just a little bug.
A bug?
Yes, sir. That's just what it was, Mr. Conklin. A bug. We all saw it, didn't we, Mr. Boynton?
Oh, yes, it was a bug, Mr. Conklin.
In my office? What sort of a bug was it?
A beetle.
A boll weevil.
A louse.
The three of them were building a nest.
A nest?
Well, a hutch or whatever it is they live in.
Boll Weevil live in cotton bolls.
You must get awfully tired of watching football games, don't you?
Tired of watching football games? I've never heard anything so...
What's going on here? What are you three doing in my office?
Well, sir, we just came in to wish your wife a happy birthday.
You came in to wish my wife a happy birthday?
Yes, sir. Happy birthday to her. Happy birthday.
Oh, quiet!
Mr. Conklin, I might as well tell the truth. I wanted to give Mrs. Conklin her present myself. That's why we entered your office, but then when I heard you coming, I became nervous and tossed it out the window.
Oh, well, that's easily remedied. We'll just reach out and pick it up. Now, but if there's nothing in it but underwear,
Please, not in front of Mr. Boynton. You see, that was a little fib, too, Mr. Conklin. It isn't underwear. It's something for the house. You see, I wanted you to be surprised, too.
That's right. That's what Miss Brooks told us.
Yes, sir. She wants you to be surprised, too.
Oh, well, that's different. Something for the house, eh? Mrs. Conklin's been talking about new curtains for the dinette. Could this be curtains?
It could be for us. Please, Mr. Conklin, if you'll just hand it over, I'll be eternally in your debt.
You are now. But if it pleases you to surprise us, then take it. But whatever you do, don't come over too early. I'm not going to give Mrs. Conklin my gift until after dinner.
Oh, that's perfect. You'll be good and busy inside. That is, goodbye now.
The cafeteria's about to close, Daddy. Aren't you going to have lunch?
I had to bite downtown, Harriet, when I bought your mother her birthday present.
Oh, what did you get her, Daddy?
A radium dial table model clock so she can see what time of night it is without waking me. I took it home before I returned to school. $15 I paid for that clock. She'd better like it.
I hope you hid it someplace where she won't find it in advance. You know how inquisitive Mother is about her presents.
I'm well aware of your mother's little idiosyncrasy, Harriet. I hid it all right. I buried it in the little sunken toolbox out in our garden. This is one present nobody could find without a Geiger counter.
Get off that driveway, Walter. Here's the gate to the backyard.
Now, show us about where you got the orchid, Walter, and I'll dig a little hole for it and put it back.
Oh, right you are, Mr. Boynton. It's over this way. Bring the box.
What's that box you're carrying, Walter?
This? Oh, this is the Geiger counter. I figured if we get away with this flower deal, we can get away with borrowing the counter for one evening.
Oh, great. Now I'm the co-owner of a hot Geiger counter. I wonder how Tehachapi is in the summertime.
Oh, don't worry, Miss Brooks. We'll be through with this job in a jiffy, and then we can do a little prospecting. Oh, stop right here, Mr. Boynton. I think this is pretty close to where I got the flower.
All right, Walter.
Please, Mr. Boynton, there's nothing to get so excited about.
That wasn't me.
No?
It's a Geiger counter. This is where I must have stepped. Miss Brooks, we're rich!
South America, take me away. Mr. Boynton, dig some more.
I'll put the counter over here now, so we'll keep quiet. We don't want to disturb anybody.
Wait a minute. I've uncovered some sort of a toolbox. What's this package in it?
Listen. It's ticking.
Ticking. It must be a time bomb.
A time bomb? But who would want to blow up Mr. Conklin?
Who wouldn't? I mean, if there's uranium around here, this bomb could have been planted by someone who didn't want any of us to get it.
That's right. Or it could have been placed by some crackpot who wants to see our civilization survive.
Listen. It's ticking louder.
Quick, give it to me. Here's a full watering can. This should stop it. There. It stopped.
You've done it, Miss Brooks.
Oh, you certainly have, Miss Brooks.
I don't know what it is she's done, but I'll bet I'm against it.
Mr. Conklin, oh, this is one time you won't be mad at us. Miss Brooks just stopped the ticking.
Well, she certainly did, sir. She threw the whole box right into the watering can. You see, it isn't making a sound.
Indeed, it isn't. But then, after they're submerged in water for a while, very few $15 table model clocks are capable of making any sound!
$15 tablecloth?
Yes, Miss Brooks. Contained in this soggy, gift-wrapped box is my wife's birthday present. Well, is there any message you'd like to convey?
All together, gang. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mrs. Conklin.
Eve Arden as our Miss Brooks returns in just a moment, but first...
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl.
Tonight, yes, tonight, show him how much lovelier your hair can look after a Luster Cream shampoo. Luster Cream, world's finest shampoo. No other shampoo in the world gives you Kay Daumit's magic blend of secret ingredients plus gentle lanolin. Better than a soap, better than a liquid. Luster Cream is a dainty cream shampoo. Leaves hair 3 ways lovelier. Fragrantly clean, free of loose dandruff, glistening with sheen. Soft, manageable. Even in hardest water, Luster Cream lathers instantly. No special rinse needed after a Luster Cream shampoo. So gentle, Luster Cream is wonderful even for children's hair. Tonight, yes, tonight, try Luster Cream shampoo.
Dream girl, beautiful luster cream girl. You owe your crowning glory to a luster cream shampoo.
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, when we showed Mr. Conklin that his black orchid was still intact, and I promised to reimburse him for the ruined clock, he calmed down a bit, and his complexion returned to its normal color, purple. After he had dismissed us, I slunk back to my room and fell into a nice, peaceful slumber. However, I awoke in the morning with a very disquieting thought. The fact remained that somewhere, somehow, Walter Denton had stepped in uranium. Mr. Keller, the chemistry teacher, had verified that. So when Walter arrived to pick me up, I hastened to reaffirm our partnership. We are still partners, aren't we, Walter?
Oh, you bet, Miss Brooks. Mr. Conklin didn't see the Geiger counter at all.
Good. Now, today, let's get a hold of a sample of uranium so we'll know what we're looking for.
And first, you'll have to give me $5, Miss Brooks.
$5?
We're partners, aren't we? You put in 5 and I'll put in 5. Mr. Keller just called to tell me that's what a sample costs.
Well, why should we have to buy it? Couldn't we borrow it?
Look, Miss Brooks, remember I told you how I got up on the table in school to fix the light bulb?
Yes, but what has that got to do with the uranium sample in the chem lab?
That's the uranium I stepped in.
What?
Sure. That's why we got to put in $5 each to buy the school a new sample.
Now I've got to go to South America, if only to send you a tsetse fly.
Next week, tune in to another Our Miss Brooks show brought to you by Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis, Lester White, and Joe Quillen, with the music of Wilbur Hatch under the direction of Maurice Carlton. Mr. Boynton is played by Jeff Chandler, Mr. Conklin by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, and Gloria McMillan. For a beauty bath that brings you glamour from head to toe, get bath-size Palmolive soap.
Yes, ladies, for a velvet smooth beauty lather that caresses your skin, leaves your whole body glowing with the warm blush of fragrant loveliness, enjoy a beauty bath with bath-size Palmolive. It's perfect for your tub or shower. Just the gentlest massage over your body creates a glorious lather that leaves your skin delightful.
Yes, for the most luxurious bath you've ever had, get big bath-size Palmolive soap. For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North, the exciting, fun-packed adventures of an amateur detective and his beautiful wife. Tune in Tuesday evening over most of these same stations. And be with us again next week at the same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Too hard. No, I know what it is. This morning I added some tomato juice.
Tomato juice?
I figured I might as well use it up. There wasn't enough to pour on my farina anyway. It's very healthy, Connie. Now go ahead, get it down.
That isn't the big trick. Which reminds me, have you planned dinner for tonight?
Not yet, Connie.
Good. I wonder if you'd do me a big favor.
I'd like to, Connie, but I'm rather short this week myself, and
It isn't money this time. I just thought it'd be nice if you went over to your sister Angela's house for dinner. You see, Mr. Boynton has invited me to a barbecue.
He has? Where, Connie?
Here in our backyard. He knows we've got a portable barbecue wagon, but in return for the use of our grounds and equipment, he's consented to let me furnish the food also.
How very generous of him. But I suppose you want me to visit my sister so that you can be alone with Mr. Boynton.
You've guessed my secret, Mrs. Davis. I haven't had one date with him all week long. And he's seen Miss Enright 3 times.
Well, she's nothing to worry about, Connie. My goodness, no normal man would look at her cross-eyed.
And believe me, that's the best way to look at her. But you know, Mrs. Davis, she's insidious. She has a way of clinging to a man like a piece of lint.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Boynton will brush her off when he's spent the evening alone with you, Connie. I'll call Angela on the phone and tell her I'm coming over tonight.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Davis. I knew you'd come through for me.
By the way, how did you make this date with Mr. Boynton?
Last night. He called just after midnight.
Oh, isn't that rather late for him?
Oh, he apologized for calling at such an hour, but he had taken Miss Enright to a movie, and after he took her home, he felt awfully restless. Just couldn't sleep, he said.
What movie did they see?
Vaughn Monroe in Singing Guns. Mr. Boynton said the picture was fine, but every time he dozed off, the guns stopped singing and Vaughn Monroe started.
Well, let's hope tonight is the start of a new Mr. Boynton. Romantically speaking, that is.
Mm-hmm.
With the two of you alone in the backyard, sitting under the moon. Who knows what primitive instincts may stir in him?
Perhaps you're right. I remember last year about this time we were sitting in the yard and the moon was very full.
Yes, Connie.
The stars were out, too, millions of them. And as a soft breeze rippled through my hair, Mr. Boynton turned and looked right into my face.
And what did he say, Connie?
He said, "Isn't this a keen night for trapping gophers?"
Here's some mail you forgot to bring from home, Daddy. I thought you might want to read it before school starts.
Thank you, Harriet. Just put it on my desk, right behind the little neon sign that says Osgood Conklin, Principal.
Okay. Oh, Daddy, before I forget, how about inviting Miss Brooks over for dinner tonight?
What? Me invite Miss Brooks to our home for dinner?
Yes, Daddy, I think it would be sweet. After all, she hasn't been too well during the past week, and you've been rather...
You were leaping at my throat.
What an odd notion. Yes, well, let's not dwell on it. Will you step into my office for a moment, please?
Yes, sir.
Now, sit down, Miss Brooks. As you know, I'm not much given to fraternization with faculty members. However, my daughter Harriet and my dear wife have put the heat on me to see... they've suggested that I invite you over for dinner tonight.
Oh, how charming. But I'm afraid I couldn't make it tonight, Mr. Conklin.
We're having codfish balls.
That isn't my reason for refusing. But I've planned a barbecue for tonight. This May weather is so lovely.
A barbecue. What are you going to barbecue?
Miss Enright. Spare ribs, probably.
Barbecued spare ribs.
With plenty of savory hot sauce.
And potato salad.
And those wonderful juicy frankfurters.
Smeared with mustard.
And sweet corn.
Dripping with butter and salt.
And homemade biscuits.
Loaded with honey. And a tossed green salad.
Yes, sir. Now, if you'll excuse me, Mr. Conklin.
Where are you going?
To the infirmary. I've made a pig of myself. It was very nice of you to ask me over, Mr. Conklin, but if it's all the same to you, may I have a rain check?
Indeed you may, Miss Brooks. I shall invite you to my outdoor barbecue the very next time it rains.
Excuse me.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay. And Luster Cream Shampoo for soft, glamorous, caressable hair bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden.
It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, the season for colds is just about over. But our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, managed to have one that hung on all last week.
The cold didn't bother me as much as the fact that it put me a full week behind in the pursuit of my favorite extracurricular activity, a biology teacher named Philip Boynton. For while I was steaming myself with an inhalator, Mr. Boynton was being steamed by another female English teacher, one Daisy Enright. And as far as I'm concerned, one Daisy Enright is one too many. But by last Friday morning, the cold at least was licked. And as I sat down to breakfast with my landlady, she complimented me on my appearance.
You look fine, Connie, the picture of health. You really have the bloom of youth in your cheeks.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Davis. I feel a lot better. But these rosy cheeks aren't all the bloom of youth. There's just too much starch in the face towels.
Sorry, dear. I'll limpen them out a bit.
Yes, they could use a little limpening.
Now go ahead and drink your juice, dear. We can talk later.
What kind of juice is this, Mrs. Davis?
It's a combination. I take the juice of an orange, some lemons, and a grapefruit, and then I whip them all together.
But this color, why is it so red?
I guess maybe I whipped them.
Severe with her.
I've been severe with her. Do you realize that in the past week she has twice dropped a typewriter on my left foot, broken my glasses, and spilled ink all over my newest tie?
But those were all accidents, Daddy. By inviting her over, it would show that you forgave her. Besides, Mother says we owe Miss Brooks a dinner since last Thanksgiving.
That's nothing to be thankful for.
Mother's making codfish balls tonight, and I thought...
Codfish balls? Again?
Yes, Daddy. I've asked Walter Denton to come, but Mother always makes plenty
Just a minute, Harriet. You say we owe Miss Brooks a dinner?
That's right.
Well, this might be the perfect night to get it over with. Between the codfish balls and that lame-brained dunce Walter Denton, it's a wasted night anyhow. Yes, Harriet, I'll invite your Miss Brooks to dinner.
Thanks, Daddy. But I wish you didn't feel that way
Don't mention his name again. Now, tell me, has Miss Brooks arrived at school yet?
That's a timely question, Daddy. She's just coming up the walk. I can see her through your window.
Good. Now, you run along, child. I'll attend to everything.
All right, Daddy. See you during lunch period.
Codfish balls. Now, let's see. I'll have to meet Miss Brooks in the corridor accidentally. Don't want her to think I'm running after her. She should be coming in the front door about now. That's approximately 8 paces to my door. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now. Good morning, Miss Brooks.
Oh, Mr. Conklin, forgive me for screaming. I thought